Hello, everybody. My name is Kyle Chambers, and I'm here today with Noell Jellison. Thank you so much for joining the show today, Noel.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Noel is a great martial arts sport karate competitor, and she's from Wisconsin, and she's on Team Infinity. She has had a very good martial arts career, so it's great we're able to dive into some topics today. And it's great that we're able to have you on. I've had several great martial arts competitors in the past on, such as Sammy Smith, Solange Olivier, Mary Amato, and it's great we're able to talk about as many sport karate athletes as we can on this podcast. So let's start with the first topic for today. How honored are you to be able to compete in the virtual forms tour that was hosted by Virtual Fight Tour back in December 2020?
That was something that I've never done before. And due to COVID, that was something that we that started. So getting able to be put into it was such an honor. Both Sammy and Solange are both great competitors. Solange and I have been competing against each other for a couple of years now, at least. So it's always a pleasure competing against her. And then Sammy, I've always grown up idolizing her since she's been the top name for years on end. So growing up and becoming an adult, being able to compete against her is always an honor. And they're both just amazing martial artists. So it's always amazing being able to compete against them.
That's awesome. I was able to watch that virtual forms tour, and I was really impressed with how great all the athletes were, both male and female, in the creative forms, creative weapons, and male and female, and also the traditional kata. So really a wide variety of different forms and all different skill levels too, which is really awesome as well.
Mhm.
So, talk about your experience of being one of the mutant kids on Logan. How was that like for you, and what was really memorable about it?
Um, so that was such an incredible thing. And I was able to do it with one of my best friends that I grew up with on NASCA, Haley Glass. Um, and then there were some other NASCA kids like Aiden Kennedy, um, Salif. But being able to go on set and film and everything, having my best friend there, just made the experience 10 times better. Um, since it's always nice to know a friendly face, especially when you're doing bigger projects. Um, so just being able to do that with Haley for the most part just made everything better. And I wouldn't change anything. Being able to travel with her um, is always a pleasure. It's always something that I've loved to do with her. So that was kind of more of a vacation, you could say, since it was a different type of traveling comparing to a tournament. This was um, we were able to do stuff and travel and just do more touristy stuff than we're usually able to do versus when we usually travel. Um, but I think just being able to be on set at such a young experience, being able to know the ropes behind the stunt work and just seeing the difference of what goes behind the scenes versus like what you see on screen is just I think it's incredibly fascinating.
Absolutely. Have been many sport martial arts competitors that have gone into stunt work, including yourself and Haley Glass and Solange Olivier and Enzo Belong. And
Mhm.
there's several others like Christine Bannon Rodriguez that have all done film work, either in stunts and or acting. So it's really cool how the extreme side of martial arts can really blend really well and really transition really well into the film industry as well.
Yeah.
So talk about how honored you are to be on Team Infinity. I know before the podcast episode, you're talking about you were on the team starting back in 2013. So, how much of an honor has it been for you to represent Mike Welch and be able to be on Team Infinity?
Uh, it's my dream come true. I started competing around the Madison or just Wisconsin in general at a really young age. I started competing around when I was 7, and I started seeing YouTube videos of Team Infinity competing at these big NASCAR tournaments, and that's something that I wanted to do. then I found out they were from the Madison area, and originally I'm from the Milwaukee area, so it's only an hour and a half away. And so I started doing private lesson with Joseph Bine. He was one of my first coaches, and then I started working with my coach now, Mike Welch, um, and that progressed into becoming a part of team. And being part of team is more than just the name itself. They're my family. I can count on them to have my back when anything happens. There's no doubt in it. Like Hunter Orlowski and Alex Riggs, I grew up with them. They're part of team as well, and they're my absolute best friends. So being able to be on team is more than just the logo on my back. They're my family. Like I said, I can count on them. And Mike Welch is an amazing man. He's helped me with when life gets hard. He's helped me become the person I am. And I wouldn't change anything. Team Infinity is my family and I love them. So
It's awesome. I did 4 years in the WKF on a high level up here in Canada, and I was on a team called the Shintani team, and it was a team within the STAM, a part of that one off that did sport karate events all over North America. And I remember the best memories I had as a WKF competitor were with the Shintani team, even those after training moments when you're hanging out or doing whatever or doing different team bonding events. Those are great memories that you have for the rest of your life. And some of your best friends are from those teams, and I'm still friends with my coaches and teammates from that. So really art is a great thing when you travel with a team throughout a sport karate season, memories and friends you can make through that.
yeah, the bond that we created and then all the different stories you get from traveling together, I always think are really funny because it'll be like, do you remember that one tournament when such and such happened? Or when we're at the airport and we got delayed for the whole day. So we did nothing in the airport and tried to entertain ourselves. Like just memories that are unique and help create the bond between your team or whomever.
Absolutely. It's great also to be able to have a team when you're up there in a big competition, wherever you are, and be able to have the team you're part of cheering for you. That's a great feeling as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, what has it been like to be part of Adrenaline Pro, and explain what the company is about and explain some of the other great athletes that are associated with the company as well?
So Adrenaline is an upcoming company. I would say they've been a name. They've hosted a trick battle for 4 or 5 years or so. And so that brought a ton of great athletes out of the country, all around the US, to do trick battles. Right now, I know we have athletes giving tutorials like Michael Guthrie, Olivia Rando, Gabrielle Jean. We have so if you want to learn any tutorials, it could be as basic as a back sweep or it could be double fulls. Like there's a wide range of what we can do for tricking. We have weapons, so Aiden Considine, Danny Etkin giving weapons tutorials. We have all of the tutorials you could ask for. They also make clothes, so I know they just released some new shorts for men, and they always have t-shirts and hoodies. So they give out clothing, and then they host a ton of social media stuff. So they've had weapons battles against people online. We did this in person for a while, but due to COVID, we had to do a shift. So we have the raw online battles between athletes. We've hosted highlight reels for other athletes that are upcoming, and we're trying to make the sport itself more known and highlighted, kind of like you would see like basketball, UFC, and just get martial arts / tricking out in the world because it's a sport that isn't recognized yet compared to, like I said, basketball. So you see all the social media posts for the Bucks just winning a championship versus like a trick battle, we just want to make sure that the name's out there more so. And then we just did a partnership with some stunt work. So we had the names out there with Chris Brewster, if you know his name at all.
Not familiar with him.
He's one of the best stunt people out there. He's working on projects. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but we just partnered with him. So we're getting some of the stunt side, like we talked about earlier, with people going from NASCA to movies. We'll have more information on how people can start more of the stunt work rather it being the typical, I'm going to California and I'm going to hope for the best, like we want to get it out there that it's not as hard or as scary as it might sound. Like everyone does I'm going to go to California and make my dreams come true. We want to get that training out there for everyone to see if it's something they're interested in, what it's really like versus having this whole intimidation factor there.
That's awesome, able to really bridge the gap between the sport karate world and the movies as well with that company. And it's great they're having those one-on-one battles. Also, I've been able to host some different pay-per-view battles on EventX TV through KC Sports Talk. And really it's about promoting the sport, both in traditional and CMX and tricking, to really show that the athletes that are competing are just as reputable as athletes in basketball and football, because you guys do put the work in to make yourselves great. So you guys can be the best you can be. So it's really promoting the sport for the good, so it gets out there so more people can see how great sport karate is in general.
Yeah, it's always interesting when people ask me what I do and I say karate. So they always think of the Karate Kid, but I'm like, it's a lot more than that. It's tricking, which is break dancing / gymnastics / martial arts. Like it's 3 different categories in one, and I'm excited to see if we can get the name, like tricking in general, more so out there to the world, so they can actually see what's going on and maybe get it to the level of basketball on coverage.
Absolutely. It'd be really cool to see the tricking and the creative side more on ESPN. I know they do have it on for the US Open on July 4th, and that's definitely a great start to have it on mainstream TV for people to watch it like in a sports bar and go, that's a really great product they're putting on. So that's great as well.
Yeah.
So maybe talk about your experience in Japan back in 2017, being able to travel with Team Sideswipe and be able to do seminars, new demonstrations in Japan to show how great the creative karate and tricking is, the American creative karate and tricking is over in Japan as well.
Going to Japan was one of the best experiences I can ever say with going with karate in general. I got to travel with Mary Amato and the other guys, but Mary and I have been best friends our whole lives. So being able to travel together to Japan, we did some sightseeing, but with the Sideswipe, I've always idolized Sideswipe. They've always done such a great job with what they've done. And when Sensei asked me to be part of the team for Japan, I was just astonished and baffled, honestly, because I remember he pulled me aside and was like, "You want to go to Japan?" And I was like, "Of course, Sensei." And then I was like, I had to compete. And I was like, what did he just ask me? So I talked to him later and he's like, "Oh, there's a Sideswipe show and I want to bring you to Japan." And I was just like, "Oh, you were serious," like that little bit of, I didn't know what was going on, or I didn't truly understand the concept of what was happening. It was just a casual, like, "Oh, you want to go to Japan?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" And going there and being able to perform just was insane. Being able to get the crowd going, showing them what karate is, just, it's a whole new experience. I'm in a whole different ballpark, and it was just incredible.
That's awesome. You're able to go over to Japan and do that. I actually got on the Western Time team back in 2016, and they ended up going to Japan in September of that of the year that I got on. So I got in June of 2016. They went, I didn't go that year because I was a rookie, but they went over for the traditional karate and they said it was a great experience as well. So it's really great because Japan has a lot of great athletes and they really do have a really great traditional background in karate. So it's great you guys were to go over there and do that as well. Mary
Yeah.
Amato is a personal friend of mine as well, and she's done several podcast episodes for KC Sports Talk. So I've had a lot of respect for her as well, and she's definitely another really great athlete.
Yeah, of course. Love her. She's the one who pushed me to be where I am since we grew up together. I always had to compete against her, so she helped push me to become the athlete I am today. So shout out Mary Amato for that.
Absolutely. I remember when I just started into the creative side because I'm a traditional kata athlete. So I started into the creative kata and she was my coach. And I remember I went through a few different athletes and we were just doing general seminars to see like what is creative kata, what is CMX, what is this, what is that. And so I texted her and said, could I do a creative kata seminar with you? She said, sure. So I was asking her a few questions and I was like, going to go through my form real quick. So she's like, okay. So I start going through my form and then she's like giving me pointers and like constructive criticism when I'm like, this could actually work as a coaching student relationship. Since then, for about a year and 3 months, we've been a good coaching student thing going on. So she's a really great athlete and coach as well. So that's awesome.
For sure.
So what is the most memorable moment of your career as far as tournaments go?
I think the most memorable moments would be in Ireland of 2016. I went to a Wako tournament and I actually wasn't competing. I was watching one of my friends, Bailey Murphy, compete and we were down. It was team fighting for gold. And I just remember we were down, I want to say like 6 or 7 points at least. And he was the last person up. And Bailey beat that gap and we ended up winning gold. And that was the first time I've ever seen. First off, that was the first thing we've ever done, getting a gold title, I'm pretty sure, or one of the times for that tournament. And just the atmosphere of it, because I'm also a fighter, and going to a European tournament and where fighting is everything, just the energy, the amount of hype that was created because we were going for a gold title, and just seeing Bailey get us that title was one of the most incredible things, where the whole team was yelling for him, rooting for him, like, having his back, yelling Team USA. And then we got that title and going up on the podium with them and seeing that we're changing history for Team USA. So that was one of the most insane memories for me. And just being able to say I went to Ireland for a tournament, that's one of my favorites.
Awesome. I was able to go back to a tournament in Ireland back in 2017, and it was a great experience. Going into Bailey Murphy, I saw him compete back at the 2021 Battle of Atlanta, and I watched the competition on Facebook Live. I don't really understand much about the point fighting aspect of it, but he is one of the best fighters I've ever seen. I've done a little bit of WKF Kumite, which is a little bit different, but he is one of the best fighters, point fighting or Kumite I've ever seen. He's so efficient and he's so good at what he does. It's really amazing to watch him.
Yeah, props to Bailey on that. And shout out Mr. G. Mr. G also trained me for a little bit, and he's one of the best fighting coaches, I would say, out there. And he definitely knows what he's doing. He knows his athletes. He's always had great fighters. Like, I know Bella Carrata is on his team. There's Romani, who's also on his team, Brandon Ballou. He's always had really amazing athletes out there for fighters, and he's always a pretty well-rounded coach. So he has people not just fighting, but he has people doing forms, whether it's CMX or traditional. He always has athletes doing everything out there.
That's awesome. There are a lot of great athletes out there that do the fighting and the forms. One, name that comes to mind that I can think of is Julia Plocker. She's really good in the fighting and good in the forms as well. So it's great to see many athletes being able to, as they get older, continue to do the fighting and the forms to become really well-rounded athletes.
Yeah, I would say Julia's a pretty well rounded athlete. I remember I did the same thing as her. So at tournaments, we'd always be like, "What division's up next? What uniform do we have to be in?" Because we'd have creative forms that day, trad weapons, trad forms. We'd fought, and then we'd have runoffs sometimes. So it'd always be, "What division's going on right now, Julia? What's happening?"
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on the podcast episode today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This has been KC Sports Talk, the podcast with Kyle Chambers.